My name is Paul Horn. I am a probate attorney. So we're going to talk about in your real estate career, you will encounter a homeowner who passed away. It's going to happen. Looking at the history timeline, baby boomers are going to be dying. It's going to be one of the wealthiest, one of the greatest wealth transfer in history. When was the last time, right? You know of someone who don't die? Well, all baby boomers are going to pass away. They own a house. When they pass away, how does their house get passed on to the son, to the daughter? So you can sell it if they choose to sell it. How would that happen? When you are conducting a real estate transaction, when the homeowner is alive, no problem, right? The homeowner signs your listing agreement. But you are going to encounter situation where mom died, mom has 4 kids, and the children want you to sell that house. Mom was your client, mom died, the family wants you to sell that house. So the question is, well, mom has 4 kids, which of the 4 kids would have the power to sign your listing agreement? Who is your seller? Who is your seller, right? Is your seller mom, or is your seller mom, or is your seller the children? Which one? Okay, so I'm going to share with you a handout. Okay, I'm going to put up a handout that we're going to talk about. Oh, let's see here. Let's talk about this handout that is on your screen. And if you wish, you should take out your iPhone and take a picture of this screen. Why? Because this screen is a flow chart. It's a flow chart. What do you do when a homeowner passes away and you're selling this house? What do you do? Well, if we look at this screen, the flow chart says the first thing you do is you're going to pull the grantee. When you pull the grantee to see who is the owner, there's only going to be two ways it's going to play out. One way is the house is in a trust. So if you look at the screen, in blue, I highlight in blue for you, it's a diagram in blue. Homeowner died, you call up your title rep emails you the grantee. If the grantee shows this house is owned by a trust, then there's no probate needed. And the successor trustee would sign your listing agreement. And you move forward with your escrow transaction, with your real estate transaction. That's how you would handle if a house is in a trust. You're only going to know if the house is in a trust or not by you pulling the grantee. Okay? So homeowner died, you pull the grantee. On the left-hand side of your screen is where I illustrate out the flow chart. If the house is in a trust, wonderful, no probate is necessary. And the successor trustee would sign your listing agreement. So mom passed away, the house is in a trust, how would you confirm? How would you confirm who is the successor trustee? How would you go about doing that? Well, you would need to have a copy of the trust. You need a copy of the trust. So where will you find a copy of the trust? Where will you find that? Well, normally the children will give you a copy of the trust. Okay, so if the house is in a trust, yay, let's get a copy of the trust. Okay, let's get a copy of the trust. Normally the children will give you a binder. If the house is in a trust, normally the children will give you a binder that looks like this. That looks like this. So mom died, you pull the grandee, the house in a trust. If there's a trust, the children normally will give you a binder that looks like this. It says estate planning on it. And in this binder, when you look through it, you'll see the trust. You will see the trust, okay? Now, what I want to tell you is that the trust is not at the county recorder. So let's say if the children cannot find a copy of the trust, I want you to know that it's not at the county recorder. A trust is a private document. The trust says, I am married to so-and-so. The trust says, I have 4 children. The trust says, I love 4 children all equally, 25% each. The trust says, I have 4 children, but I'm disinheriting little John because he's a drug addict. The trust is a very private document. It's not a public record. So the children will give you a copy of the trust, okay? Now, if the children don't have it, yeah, you can contact the lawyer who drafted the trust. When you pull the grandee, that shows the house is vested in the trust. On the upper left-hand corner should be the name of the lawyer who drafted the trust. If the children don't have a copy of the trust, you can contact that lawyer. Have the children contact that lawyer. Now, FYI, you'll be glad to hear this. Lawyer die as well. Yay, right? Thank God lawyer die as well. They die as well. So the onus is on the family. The onus is on, if you have a trust, you got to keep a copy of your trust. If you pass away and you lost a copy of the trust, you don't have the original and you don't have a copy, then it's going to be too bad, so sad, because it's going to go to probate. Okay, so let me drive that point home. Mom died, you pull the grandee, the house is in the trust, but no one can find a copy of the trust. And the lawyer, he's dead, she's dead. Then welcome to probate. Okay, so the takeaway from this short segment so far is make sure you have a copy of your trust. If you don't have a copy of your trust, you die. Too bad, so sad, it goes to probate. Okay. All right. So now the next thing I want to talk about. So when you go get your trust done, the lawyer will give you a binder like this with all the documents in it. The lawyer should give you an electronic copy, like a USB drive, electronic copy like you see on the screen. Okay. A copy of the trust is good enough. So when you go draft your trust, your estate planning, it should have all these components. The trust says, hey, we have 4 children, for example. The trust says, hey, 25% each. The trust says, oh, our daughter, she is really conscientious. She is really responsible. So let's make her the successor trustee. If she died, let's have little Johnny be the next in line as a successor trustee. Okay, so that's how that works. Mom and dad die, you look in the trust to see who is the successor trustee. If the first one died, the trust should list a second and a third. The trust would say, hey, I love all 4 kids equally, for example, 25% each. A good trust should be a multi-generational trust where it says, hey, I have 4 children. If one child passes away, give his or her 25% to his or her children, meaning my grandchildren. If any of my kids were to get a divorce, no, the spouse cannot touch it. That's a good trust. That's the type of trust that you want. Earlier, we mentioned the baby boomers. Baby boomers. On the screen, can you see my screen, guys? Can you type in the chat box? Can you all see my screen? Let me see here. So I just enabled my chat. Can you type in the screen? Good. So the screen shows an elderly couple. The screen shows an elderly couple. They want you to sell their house. They want you to sell their house. But the husband has dementia. The husband has Alzheimer's. The wife can sign your listing agreement, fine, because she's sharp. But the husband has dementia. The husband has dementia. Right? When you have dementia, Alzheimer's, you're incapacitated mentally, you cannot sign. So what do you do? You ask them, you say, hey, when you went and dropped your estate planning, when you did your estate planning, the lawyer gave you this binder like this. In this binder, there ought to be something called a durable power of attorney. The durable power of attorney says, hey, I am the husband. If I'm incapacitated, I nominate my wife, my daughter, my son to step in my shoes to sign my name, sign the listing agreement, for example. Okay? So keep in mind this legal document known as the durable power of attorney. It is very, very important. Okay? Why is it important? Why? Because this document allows your seller, if he or she is incapacitated, it allows his wife, his son, his daughter to sign his name. As medical technology becomes so good, our body can be kept alive, right? But sometimes our mind is not there. That's why you need a durable power of attorney, right? Think about it. Think about it. If you are incapacitated, who's going to sign your name? Who is going to sign your name, right? You're not dead, but you're incapacitated. Who do you trust to sign your name? Who do you trust? Who do you give the power to say, hey, you are my power of attorney to take care of me, to nurse me back to good health while I'm incapacitated? That's called a durable power of attorney. Okay, so keep that in mind. So going back to my list right here, you should take a picture of this. This is what makes a good trust, a good estate planning. Okay, it should come with your trust is the centerpiece. Your trust is what avoids probate. Your trust is what protects your children. Hey, it goes to all my kids. Hey, if my kid gets a divorce, my ex-son-in-law cannot touch it, for example, and so forth. That's the trust. But the trust should also come with ancillary document, such as the durable power of attorney that you see on the screen. Also, if you end up in the hospital, you cannot speak, you cannot talk, they're going to ask for the advanced healthcare directive. The advanced healthcare directive. What is the advanced healthcare directive? Well, if you were in the hospital, you cannot talk, you cannot speak, right? They're going to want to see, did you sign a piece of paper known as the advanced healthcare directive to legally appoint someone to sign to speak to the doctor, speak to the hospital about your medical treatment, okay? All right, let us move forward. The next point that I want to talk about that's very important is taxes. Let's talk a little about taxes, okay? When we talk about someone pass away and you're selling the house for the children, we're probably talking about, oh, let's see here. Let me just address some stuff that, let me see if I can do this. People are saying that they couldn't click on it. See, oh, Dropbox doesn't work. Is that what it says? Okay, all right. Okay, so back to the lecture. You are in real estate, right? You sell real estate. And in California, real estate price always increase, right? As a general statement, in real estate always kind of beat inflation, right? It's very, very usual that maybe mom bought the house for $200,000 and now mom died and now you're selling that house for $1 million, $2 million, right? It happens all the time. Okay. Mom died, she bought the house for $200,000. She, in the beginning, 30, 40 years ago, she bought the house for $200,000. When she died 40 years later, 30 years later, it's worth $2 million, for example, and you're selling it for $2 million. So my question for you is, it only cost mom $200,000. Now you're selling it for $2 million. Are there any capital gain? The answer is no, because of something known as a step up in basis, okay? So I want all of you to know this tax concept, Internal Revenue Code section 1014 talks about the step up in basis. And what that's saying is, mom bought the house for X amount of dollars for a very low price. When mom died, the children sells the house for 5x the price, 10x the price, no capital gain, because of what you see on the screen, a tax concept known as a step up in basis. The only way that you can get the step up in basis is if the children's name, your son, your daughter's name is not on the grantee. So the way to get this step up in basis is to draft a trust, put the house in the trust. The trust is, when I die, goes to my kid. And when you die, your kid gets the house. If your kid decides to sell it, no capital gain. They do not need to pay taxes on it. That's known as a step up in basis. It's a very powerful concept. Please don't forget it. If you add your children's name onto the grantee, you have just blown this tax loophole. You cannot use it. So the best way to have your children receive the house, your house, if they decide to sell it and not pay any capital gain, put into a trust. Very important tax concept. Okay. Megan Lee in the chat box asked, do the kids needs to pay inheritance tax, gift tax? The answer is inheritance tax, death tax, only is applicable if an individual has more than 13.6 million. Megan Lee, when you die, and if your total asset, the house, the stock, the bonds, the cash, only if you have more than 13.6 million, Megan Lee, do your kid need to pay estate tax? Meaning your estate needs to pay estate tax if you die with more than 13.6 million. Okay. When we talk about taxes, the majority of the people out there, individual. So the wife gets 13.6 million, the husband gets 13.6 million. So as a couple, you get 27 million. Not many people, I don't, not many married couple have more than 27 million. Do we have anybody on the webinar with us today where you and your husband, you and your wife is worth more than 27 million? If you do, I would like to have coffee with you and solve that problem for you. No, not a funny joke at all. You guys are a tough audience today, huh? The takeaway. You bought a house for very cheap. Just put it inside a trust. When you die, your children gets it. No capital gain tax. No tax at all. We only need to worry about inheritance tax, estate tax, if the individual who passed away has more than 13.6 million. Okay, and Anne just join us. Hello, Anne. Okay, I see that in the chat box. Okay, let's get. John Nguyen has a question. John Nguyen type in the chat box. He says after parent die, child does not want to sell, but put the house back in the child's name. Does the child have to pay new property tax? So John says, John Nguyen type in the chat box. He says, hey Paul, the step-up basis is great. I bought the house for $200,000. When I die, my son sells it for $2 million. They don't pay any taxes. That's awesome, Paul. That's awesome. That's called capital gain. But my son, Paul, my son does not want to sell this house. My son does not want to sell it. My son wants to move in there and live. Hey, Paul, I bought this house for very cheap, so my property tax is very low. Hey, Paul, can my son keep the same property tax basis? John, is that your question, right, John? That is your question, right? Okay. So what John is asking me is a Proposition 19 question. Okay, so Proposition 19, we can talk about that a little bit. So on the screen, on your screen is Proposition 19. It's about property tax. Earlier, we talked about income tax, IRS. Now we're shifting gear to property tax. Property tax. So in property tax, Proposition 19 that was passed on the screen is a great picture. It's take out your iPhone, take a picture of this screen. This screen says Proposition 19 was passed on February 16th of 2021. This screen says, hey, if it's your primary resident, it's John Nguyen primary resident. He lives there. He's the father. When he died, his son moves in there. then they can keep the same property tax. If it's the mom and dad's primary resident and the child moves in and makes it his or her primary resident, and the formula is assessed value plus $1 million. Okay, this is all rental property gets reassessed. The property tax. If they sell the rental property, no income tax, no nothing. But if they want to keep it, all rental property gets reassessed. But the primary resident has a formula, assessed value plus $1 million. Okay. So that's a little about taxes. Okay. That's a little about taxes. So what I want to ask you is this. Can you type in a chat box for me? I'm curious. Type in a chat box if you are married and you have rental property. If you are married and you have rental property, tell me how much did you buy your rental property for and what is the value right now? Go ahead, don't be shy, type in the chat box. I am married. I bought my rental property for $200,000. Now it's $1 million. I want to teach you. I want to illustrate for you another great tax benefit. So help me out. Type in the chat box. Make it up. I am married. I bought a rental property for $200,000. Now it's worth $1 million. Make it up. Type in the chat box. I want to illustrate a tax concept for you. Nobody is married on a webinar. Nobody has rental property in a webinar. All right. If you are, oh, okay. So Tom Boy bought, it's in the chat box. Tom Boy bought he's married. He bought a rental property. He bought a rental property $300,000. Tom, how much is the rental property worth now, Tom? Tom is married. He bought a rental property for $300,000. What's the value now? 1.5. Let's use this as an example. Tom is married. He lives in California. He bought a rental property for $300,000. It's a rental property. Tom, listen carefully. Tom and everybody. Husband and wife lives in California. They have a rental property. Okay, they have a rental property. Tom, when he bought that property, if he were to vest title as community property with right of survivorship, if he did that, when his wife died, Tom can sell this $1.5 million rental property for zero income tax, zero capital gain. Tom, if you die, right? In California law, husband always die first, Tom. In California, husband always die first. Tom, if you die, and if that house was vested as community property, Tom, your wife can sell this house for $1.5 million, Tom, and pay zero tax. Okay? So, Tom, the takeaway lesson, don't die first, Tom. Yeah, dying is tough. Just don't die. Yeah, so putting all joke aside, if you are a married couple in California and you're buying a house, you are married, you're a married couple in California, you're buying a house, how should you vest title? Well, don't do joint tenant, because with joint tenant is only a 50% step up in basis. Don't do community property, only just community property, because your wife can write a will to give it to that pool boy, Tom. You see the pool boy, Tom boy? If it's just community property only, your wife can write a will that says, I'm giving to this pool boy because he's an amazing pool cleaner. If you were to take it, if you invest title in that house as community property with right of survivorship, then neither of you can write a will to give your half to anybody else. Okay? This is a good slide to take a picture of. It's a good slide. Take out your iPhone. It's a good Kodak moment to say, hey, a married couple, I'm buying a house. If it is truly it's community property, and if it truly is to death do us part, then vested on the right-hand column, community property right of survivorship, okay? Community property right of survivorship. So far, guys, I've been speaking for about half an hour. So what I want to do is this. I want to give you a couple of things. What I want to do is this. Let me do this. I'm going to put this link into the chat box. When you click on this link, it's going to take you to my website. When you click on that link, it's a video. And this video gives you a good summary of what I've been speaking and talking about in the last half an hour. This is a good review. If you click on the link that you see in the chat box, it will take you to this page. When you click play on that video, it's a good review for the last half an hour, okay? And I will also give you, and let's say if you have a client that's buying a house, you have a client that's buying a house, and they're not sure whether you should invest as joint tenant or community property or tenant in common, send them to this website. Let me give you the link. Okay, so this is link number 2 I'm going to give you. Between these two links in the chat box, it's a summary of everything we talked about in the last half an hour. Okay. All right. Any questions so far, guys, of what we talked about before I move on? Megan Lee has a question. Megan Lee says, if the property is sold, owned by the husband, later we do a family trust, can we change the title? Is this doing family trust automatically change? Yeah, so if the husband owns a house under his name only, okay, get a trust. And when you get a trust, the lawyer will ask the husband, hey, husband, when you die, does the house goes to the wife? Megan Lee, the husband might say no, because Megan Lee is young, she's beautiful, she's going to marry a young guy and take the house and give it to her new husband. I'm making this up, Megan Lee, right? But yeah, if your husband own a house, put the house into the trust. And the trust will say, when I die, the house goes to my wife, goes to my husband. And when my spouse died, it goes to our kid. Or Megan Lee, your husband owns a house. He has 2 children from a prior marriage, Megan Lee. Megan Lee, you married this guy. He owns a house. He has 2 children from a prior marriage. You do a trust with him. Megan Lee, that house is in Newport Beach, worth $15 million. Megan Lee, he's going to say, hey, if I die, maybe let my wife live in there until she dies. Then the house goes to my 2 kids because I got that house from my grandpa, my grandma. Because I don't want Megan Lee to take my house, marry a new guy, and give it all to the new guy and give nothing to my children. Okay, so all these issues are trust question, living trust question that you will talk to your attorney about when drafting the trust. Okay. Hey guys, doing a trust is a big deal. You know, I make comments about husband die, wife marry a new guy, or wife die, husband marry someone else. It's a big deal. You know, these are hard-earned assets. You better get a trust that specifically makes sure that the houses goes to your children, not to the new wife, the new husband. Okay. All right. Let's move forward. Now let us talk about probate. Let's talk about probate. All right. Let's get into probate. Um, let's get into probate. So what I want to do is I want to share this probate diagram with you. Okay. I want to share this probate diagram with you. So probate in California takes at least 1 year to complete, at least 1 year to complete. Takes at least 1 year to complete, okay? Probate is very painful, very complex, takes a lot of time, okay? But what I want you to know is that you can, if your client die, there's no trust, it's in a probate, you're able to close escrow while the probate is active, okay? So what I want to do is, let us go back. Let us go back to our let me see. Let me go back to our chart. Let's see here. All right. So let's kind of take this from the beginning. We started the class and we said, hey, your homeowner died. What do? You pull the grand deed. And then I said, hey, when you pull the grand deed, if the house is in a trust, no probate needed. Okay. If the house is not in a trust, it's going to need a probate. Okay. So this is on your right-hand side of the screen. It would be a good idea to take out your iPhone and take a picture of what you see on your screen. I'm now migrating into transitioning into probate. Your homeowner died. There's no trust. Too bad, so sad. Welcome to probate. Okay. In a probate, the personal representative is the one that's going to sign your listing agreement. Now, you should take out your iPhone, take a picture of this screen right here. In red, on the screen, in red, I illustrate out for you. I diagram out for you a flow chart of how you can handle an escrow transaction if the homeowner died and it's going through a probate. Okay. So let's take it from the top. Your client died. Your client's gonna die. All of them. Okay. You know, this is a pretty important class, guys. This is a very important class. Why? Because we're all gonna die. We're all going to die. Right? So the stuff I teach you today, even though you don't have a listing where someone died, you can see all the concept that I've been talking about apply directly to you. Why? Because you're gonna die, right? You're probably sitting there and saying, oh man, this guy Paul Horn, what a miserable guy. All he talks about is death, 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 death. Yeah, but it's gonna happen, right? So the message is, hey, I'm teaching you how to navigate a real estate transaction when someone passed away. But I'm also trying to tell you this class is pretty important because it applies directly to you as well, right? You're not going to live forever. So when you look at the screen in front of you, what do you want to put your children to? The left-hand side is the trust. The right-hand side is probate. All right. Let's focus on the right-hand side. Your client died. You pull the grand deed. The house is not in a trust. Then it has to go through a probate. Mom has 4 children. Which of the 4 would have the power to sign your listing agreement? It's going to be someone known as the personal representative. Okay. So in a probate, what happened is this. In a probate, so this is also another great flow chart to take a picture of. Take out your iPhone, take a picture of this diagram, take a picture of this California probate process diagram. Okay. And in this diagram, when you look at the left-hand side, someone passed away, there's no trust. That someone, children, is going to meet with the probate attorney. The probate attorney is going to ask various questions. The probate attorney is going to put together a probate petition, file it, okay? So in the beginning, there'll be someone known as the petitioner. Once that son, that daughter is approved by the judge to be in charge, then we call that person the personal representative. The personal representative. And when we look at our flow chart, the personal representative is the individual who has the power to sign your listing agreement. In every single probate, there's something known as full authority and also limited authority. Okay, let's focus on full authority because the majority of transactions out there in probate are full authority. So if it's full authority, please look at the screen, focus your eye on the stuff in red. If it's a probate with full authority, all you need to give to escrow is the order for probate, something called letters, and another form called notice of proposed action. You give them those three forms, you can close escrow. Okay, so just to kind of graphically display on the screen for you those three forms. If it is a probate with full authority, you just need to be able to give escrow these three forms right here you see on the screen. Order for probate is one form. The next form is called letters. The next form is called the notice of proposed action. You just give these three forms to escrow, and you can close your escrow probate transaction. Okay, if it's full authority. So the first form is called order for probate. What does it look like? It looks like this. Take a picture of this. This is one of the three forms. It looks exactly like this. This is a form that the probate attorney will give you. The next form is called letters. This is the second form. It's called letter. It looks exactly like this. The third form is called a notice of proposed action. It looks exactly like that. That's it. These are the three forms that you need to give to escrow to close your probate transaction. Okay. If it's limited authority, if it's limited authority, what you're going to do is focus your eye on the screen on the lower right-hand corner. If it's a probate with limited authority, it's a lot more involved. You don't want limited authority. Ask the probate attorney for full authority. Okay. All right. So type in the chat box. Were you guys able to click on the link that I put in the chat box? Type in the chat box. Were you able to click on those links that I put in the chat box? Good. Okay. Good. Good. All right. I'm going to give you one more link to a video that summarizes the probate process. Okay. I'm going to give you one more link that summarizes the probate process. This is the link right here. This is a great video that I shot that will walk you through the California probate process from start to finish, the cost, how long it takes, and all that, and all that jazz. Let me put this third link in there for you. It's all these links I'm giving you, they're all from my website. That gives you a great summary of everything we talked about today. I cover a lot of material today, that are crucial to you, because you all own houses. You all want to pass houses to your children tax-free. You all want to make sure that if your son or daughter gets a divorce, the spouse doesn't touch it. It's all in the link I sent you. If you ever encounter a homeowner who passed away, how do you sell that house? We cover that as well today too. Between these 3 links I give you and this recorded video, you are now equipped to have a good roadmap of what to do. Okay. John Nguyen has a question. John Nguyen typed in the chat box. He says, I have a house with a daughter and an existing living trust to give her when I die. I remarried 5 years ago and live in the house since. When I die, what happened to the house? John Nguyen, what does your trust say? John Nguyen, if your trust says, when I die, it goes to my new wife, and then it goes to a new wife. If your new wife gets married, John Nguyen, what you want to do is this. John Nguyen, make sure. So if you got remarried, guys, if you got remarried, first of all, if you got remarried, congratulations, right? If you got remarried, for example, John Nguyen, let's say you pass away, and the house goes to your, go to your wife. Let's just make sure that she doesn't get remarried to this guy that you see on the screen. This guy right here, John Nguyen, you see the picture on the screen? His name is Rico Suave. That's her new husband who's going to take the house. Just make sure you trust says that. Okay? All right, guys. Okay, guys. Thank you, all of you, for being with me today. Okay? You'll get I believe this is being recorded. You're going to get a copy. I want to thank OCAR for putting on this class. I want to thank Elsie, who works at OCAR. She's terrific. She's the one that gets coordinate all these lecture for you. So if you found this class helpful, give Elsie and OCAR a shout out, because they care about you. And we have these classes so that you are knowledgeable. Okay. Thank you, guys. You guys have a terrific weekend. Have a terrific holidays.